All right, so another weekly recap video. Now today's date is Friday the 16th of January, so the week's already played out. So the weekly recap is for week commencing the 12th of January. That's when our trading week starts, right? So week to week. This week I took 4 trades, as you can see on the screen, and 4 winners, which is a 100% win rate for this week. Now, if you're new to trading, I just want to make it very clear, not every single week is going to be like this. There's going to be weeks where I win some, lose some. There's going to be weeks where I take a break-even week. And there's going to be losing weeks as well, and weeks like this where all trades play out. So I'm going to make it very clear. Trading is about probabilities, and every week is not going to be 100% win rate. Okay. So I'm going to talk through my analysis. I'm going to talk through my thinking, the trades I took, of course, which I think 3 on GU and 1 on EU, and I'm going to be walking you through all of that as we go onto the charts. So here we are on DXY. Now this is where I do literally all my analysis for the weekly plan. And you can see here that if you look at the bottom, it's Friday the 16th, and I'm going to go right to the start of the week that we just traded on replay mode and talk you all through it. So first of all, my bias was bullish on DXY. I was looking for DXY to go higher, and the reason for that is if we go into the monthly, this is kind of in my mind's eye, like this monthly fair value gap, even though we're so far away, has not been tapped yet. So that's just kind of like really high time frame kind of thinking. We're nowhere near it, but of course the lower time frames have got to switch to bullish for that to be reached, right? On the weekly, I noticed that we haven't, this is kind of the lowest point, and we haven't kind of came lower, right? We had an opportunity here to come lower, that didn't happen, and instead we pushed higher. And also with regards to the daily, we had a disrespect of all this bearish fair value gaps. So we had a fair value gap here, which was bearish, a kind of opening gap here, a bearish fair value gap here, and another bearish fair value gap here as well. And what happened is that we completely disrespect all of this, right? All of this area here, we disrespected through this bullish order flow. So going into this week, I noticed that there were a daily fair value gap here and also a daily fair value gap here. And basically I was looking for something like this to happen. So tapping to our areas, get a reaction from here to then push higher. Now I didn't want to be greedy this week either. So there were just 2R trades, or just under 2R trades. And the reason for this is that we had liquidity here, which was quite obvious. So this was a target. And also if you look on the weekly time frame, we also had a weekly bearish fair value gap, right? And also from looking at the charts as well, I know that Fridays, which is today's date, tend to kind of reverse, right? So when my TP was hit on Thursday, I didn't want to be holding on for stupid amounts and going up here, especially with a weekly bearish fair value gap, and obviously knowing that the Friday tends to be the wick of the weekly candle, right? So going on to the daily, we first of all let Monday play out, and I was thinking which daily fair value gap would it react from, and this is why we wait for confirmation in the form of displacement. So you can see here, price taps in on Monday and we start to push away. This wick here is kind of confirmation that price action is respecting these daily fair value gaps. If we go on the 1 hour, you can see there's not really much displacement as of yet. I'd say that's quite messy. The 4 hour here is a lot cleaner. Again, not aggressive displacement, and also I've got to bear in mind my targets aren't like miles away, right? So I've got to make sure I've got enough room in the trade. Now, of course, with DXY, I don't actually trade it. It's just simply for my analysis, right? So if we go on to GU, you can see here, this is the trade I took. I'll just get rid of this. So in GU, we also had a daily fair value gap, which was very nicely, inversely correlated with the DXY. And we can see here that Monday came in. So this is Monday's candle. And then Tuesday, we started to get a bit of a push away. And if we just play this forward, like so, and we start to get a push away, this was actually news. So this is where we had CPI come out, and this is where I was happy that high of the week was in. So news basically manipulated into these gaps here, and also manipulated higher to sweep the Monday high as well. So once I was happy, high of the week was in, and also always looking at DXY as well, is doing the opposite. So this was CPI, it manipulated, and then you can see it push higher, starts to push higher, right? Well, with GU, it did the opposite, and basically when I saw this manipulation, I basically got in around about here, stop loss covering the high of the week like so, and then targeting this. I didn't want to be too greedy with this. It was actually a bit higher. I think it was about a bit lower, about 2R, and basically that was the trade. That was I was in market order here. There was no limit orders used, and the whole point of this was that I had context. The context and narrative is that I believe DXY was pushing higher because we were disrespecting all of this bearish order flow, right? These are all bearish POIs. So points of interest, a bearish fair value gap here, bearish fair value gap here, bearish fair value gap here, and one here. We disrespected all of it, and we started to create bullish ones, right? So I believed that's why DXY was going higher. And because if DXY is going higher, then I want to be looking for shorts on the pound. So I got in on the 1 hour, stop loss about 34 pips, and then I was targeting this lows. And you can see price kind of was quite slow this week, in all honesty. And you can see it starts to come up, and we had GU news come out as well. So you can see, I think it comes all the way to my break-even point. You can see break even now. I'm still in the trade at this point, and then eventually it starts to go in the direction, and on Thursday it hits TP. Now with this kind of slow price action, it wasn't kind of moving a lot, in all honesty. And I've one thing I kind of always share is if you're a doctor doesn't panic if his patient or his or her patient isn't getting better immediately, right? They understand that it takes a while for that patient to get better. So when you're in a trade and you're seeing all these pullbacks and it's not going to your TP right away, you've got to understand not to panic. Let it do its thing. You're in the trade. Your stop loss is covering high of the week in case the trade idea is wrong, and that's a valid point, right? You've got to make sure your stop loss is at a invalidation zone. So if you believe this is high of the week, this is the high of this weekly candle. So if the bias is wrong, you're happy to be wrong, and that's why your protection's there, okay? So that was basically the trade, played out really nicely, and very similar to EU actually as well. We can see with EU, again, it was around about here. I think I got in on EU a bit early actually. I think it was maybe when I saw in this displacement, so I've gone the 4 hour. Yeah, I think it might have been around about here. Stop loss covering the high, I got in a bit lower, something like that, and then again I was targeting these lows, something like that. Very similar trade, high of the week being covered because DXY is bullish. I'm looking for sells on EU. I believe this high of the week here. We had also a 4 hour fair value gap, inverse fair value gap, if you can see that just here. And it was a good confirmation to take the trade as well. We also have a daily fair value gap here as well that got respected. So this is what this box is here. And again, that was nicely in alignment with DXY. DXY was coming from a bullish fair value gap, whereas EU and GU were coming from a bearish fair value gap. So everything was in alignment. Smaller targets this week because if we go on DXY of this weekly fair value gap. So if I just go to current day, today's date, I'm just going to leave. We can see right now, this is Friday the 16th, the time of this recording, and you can see we're inside this weekly fair value gap. So if we just go on the weekly, you can see we're inside that. And as it stands, we're currently respecting it. And that's why we don't want to be holding all the way up here and getting greedy with the trades, right? There's always going to be opportunity. next week, the week after. If you're trading every single week of the year, I'd say you've got like 50 weeks to trade, right? Because we don't trade over Christmas, so we have 2 weeks off over Christmas. You've got 50 weeks. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity, on the weeks coming. So yeah, that was basically it. Good week, 100% win rate. Again, not every week's going to be like this. Again, on my previous video, I took 3 trades last week. 2 of them won and 1 lost. We just got to be consistent and understand that with time, our probabilities will play out. The trades I took were all on different prop firm accounts as well. And yeah, it was a pretty good week. So that's enough of this recap. If you've got any questions about this, drop a comment below. If you have got value, don't forget to give the video a like. And yeah, I'll see you next week for the other recap. See you soon.